FRC, the Fiscal Responsibility Commission, FRC, National Quality Council, NQC, the National Hydroelectric Power Producing Areas Development Commission, and the Bureau of Public Service Reforms, BPSR, before their deployment to the office of the SGF. National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NANSENI, was placed under the presidency, while the National Identity Management Commission, NIMSI, was domiciled under the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. President Bola Tinubu has asked the Senate to screen and confirm 11 justices recommended for the Supreme Court bench. Tinubu's request was contained in a letter read by the Senate President Godswill Akpabio during the plenary on Wednesday. The National Judicial Council recommended 11 nominees to Tinubu for the appointment of Supreme Court justices, pending their confirmation by the Senate. The NGC made the recommendation after receiving a list of 22 nominees to fill the vacant positions at the Supreme Court following the death and resignation of some justices. The recommended justices are Justice Haruna Tessamani, Northeast, who chaired the Presidential Election Petition Court, Justice Moore Adumian, South-South, Justice Jumai Senke, North-Central, Justice Chidebere Uwa, South-East, and Justice Chioma Uwosu Iheme, Southeast, amongst others. President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday approved 50% slash in price of interest transport fare for Nigerians traveling during the Yellow Tide from Thursday, December 21st, 2023 to January 4th, 2024. This is as the President approved free rides for commuters and all train services within the period. The Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, announced this to State House correspondents at the Aso Rock Villa on Wednesday. This special presidential intervention will commence tomorrow, Thursday, December 21st, and it will end on January 4th, 2024. The federal government, through the Ministry of Transportation, will be working with transporters, road transport unions, and Nigerian Railway Corporation to seamlessly deliver on this special presidential initiative. Over now to Vice President Kashim Shettima has encouraged Nigerian youth to be more committed to building the nation. Shettima, represented by the Special Advisor to the President on Economic Matters, Office of the Vice President, Dr. Tokpe Fuswa, was advising the graduates of the Leadership Enhancement and Development Program, LEAD-P. He said they should see every opportunity such as LEAD-P as a call to serve more effectively, affirming that leadership challenges are changing and becoming more complex in present times. Shettima was optimistic that with rigorous training such as LEAD-P, there is hope that the public will and civil servants are prime co-workers, game changers, and change ambassadors. He further encouraged them to be more committed to building the nation. A total of 130 Nigerian Army generals on Tuesday bowed out of service. The breakdown includes 1 general, 1 lieutenant general, 67 major generals, and 44 brigadier generals at the regimental dinner night organized in honor of newly retired and retiring Nigerian Army senior officers in Abuja. The Ministry of Defense, Abubakar Badaru, hailed the support of the Nigerian Army towards the growth of democracy in the country. Badaru said this has made the Army a shining example in the West African region and beyond, urging other services in the region to take cue from the Army. According to the statement on Wednesday by the Director, Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Oyema Uwachuku, the Minister urged the Army to continue to remain loyal to the Constitution and support the development of democracy in the country. The Minister noted that the occasion provided the Nigerian Army the opportunity to reflect on its service and profound dedication as demonstrated by the retired and retiring senior officers. The Nigerian Labour Congress expressed concerns over the lingering cash scarcity in the country. 5 days to Christmas Day celebration, the Congress said in a statement by its national president, Joe Ajaero, that the situation had serious implications for citizens, insisting that urgent steps must be taken to address it. Bank customers have been groaning over their inability to access cash to meet daily needs, despite assurances from the Central Bank of Nigeria. The bank have continued to ration cash over the counter, while many ATMs are not dispensing cash. However, NLC in the statement warned the federal government and the Central Bank of Nigeria that a mass public protest was imminent if nothing was done to address the Naira shortage. The head of civil service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade Yemi Esan, said the plan for full digitalization to all processes in ministries, departments, and agencies by 2025 will lead to an automatic cut in the cost of governance. She also said the MDAs, having been given the opportunity to ensure adequate budgetary allocation in the 2024 budget, will have no excuse to up their game or digitalization come 2024. This is to meet up the deadline of 2025 as stipulated in the Federal Civil Service and Strategy and Implementation Plan 2021-2025. She said this at a one-day retreat on digitalization for the head of service and permanent secretaries, expressing dissatisfaction that Nigeria is lagging behind in terms of digitalization, as 90% of governments in the world have since gone digital and are presently deploying artificial intelligence solutions. Members of Rivers State House of Assembly have withdrawn the impeachment notice that was previously sent to Governor Siminalayi Fubara. The lawmakers officially began this session in the state capital of Port Harcourt on Wednesday. The lawmakers gathered solely to focus on the withdrawal of the impeachment notice against Fubara during their deliberations. This follows a meeting between President Bola Tinubu and the warring party in the Aso Villa in Abuja on Monday, where truce was mediated. Over now to Rivers State elders and leaders, including the former Governor Chief Rufus Ada George and former Deputy Governor Gabriel Toby, have rejected President Bola Tinubu's intervention in the political crisis rocking the state. The elders expressed worry that the intervention may have worsened and the crisis in the state. They stated this in a communique read to newsmen after an emergency meeting on Tuesday in Port Harcourt, the state capital, in response to the presidential directive aimed at resolving political crisis in the state. They said though they had previously called on the president to intervene in the feud between the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and the state governor, Siminalayi Fubara, they are not at a loss as to whether his intervention has solved the problem or escalated it. The High Court in Ibadan, Oyo State, has sentenced one Oluniyan Gbenga Amos to a total of 75 years in prison for multiple counts of investment fraud. The conviction was pronounced by Justice Bayo Taiwo on Thursday, December 14, 2023, following the 35 count brought against him by the Ibadan Zonal Command of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The charges primarily revolved around obtaining money by false pretenses, contravening Section 1, Subsection 1, Section A, and punishable under Section 1, Subsection 3 of the Advance Fee Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act, 2006. According to EFCC's statement by its X, the charges against Amos detailed instances of fraudulent schemes involving the misrepresentation of investment opportunities, resulting in substantial financial losses to unsuspecting victims. The defendant had pleaded not guilty to the charges, leading to comprehensive trial that spanned several sessions. The FCC counsel Salisu Galadunishi presented 6 witnesses and 8 exhibits during the trial, which concluded on January 24, 2023. In order to ameliorate the housing deficit in Nigeria, the Comptroller General of Nigerian Customs Service, Bashir Adewale Adeni, has announced the provision of 5,000 housing units for officers across the country. He made the announcement at the inauguration of housing scheme and symbolic handover of residence to the beneficiaries to members of the Nigerian Customs Cooperatives, which held at the Ajoda Ibadan. Kikelomo Okere has details.
The Comptroller General of Customs says the significant move is to address the housing struggles faced by its officers, as well as enhance living conditions for the officers and men of the Nigerian Customs Service. The Customs Chief reiterated his commitment to empower as well as invest in its personnel to ultimately propel them to give their all in the service to the nation.
It is with great pleasure that I extend a very sincere welcome to each of you on this momentous occasion, marking the inauguration of our housing scheme and the symbolic handover of residencies to beneficiaries, members of the Nigeria Customs Service Cooperative. Today serves as a very powerful testament to the unwavering commitments of Nigeria Customs Service management to reinforce the welfare framework for esteemed officers, their personnel, and their families. This significant strides towards the provision of secure housing is a strategic consolidation of past initiatives that has been put together to complement the overall welfare and well-being of our officers and men.
The housing scheme includes diverse residences such as 2-bedroom terrace bungalow and 3-bedroom terrace duplex strategically located in Lagos, Kaduna, Kano, Asaba, Masaka, Ibadan, Port Harcourt and Abuja. The high point of the event was the symbolic handover of the housing units, which will help to instill loyalty, motivation and sustain productivity among the workforce. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Thank you, Kike Lomo Okere, for that news report. The Lagos State government has issued a directive to all tankers and trailers to stop the indiscriminate parking along the Sele bus stop inward Tinkan Port axis, instructing them to vacate immediately. A special advisor to the Governor of Transportation, Shola Giwa, disclosed this in a statement on Wednesday. According to the statement, the directive is a decisive move to address the ongoing congestion and alleviate the challenges faced by commuters along the axis. Former Minister of Power and Steel Olu Ogunloye may soon face charges of corruption and forgery as he spends his 5th consecutive day in detention after submitting himself to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Ogunloye surrendered himself for interrogation on 13 December, a day after he was declared wanted by the Commission over corruption allegations regarding a failed multi-billion-dollar Mambila hydropower project. EFCC sources said charges have been drafted and would soon be filed in court and served on the former minister. The sources said he was declared wanted because he jumped the administrative bail granted to him. The Ogun Assembly on Tuesday swore in Olakunle Sabokunla of the All Progressive Congress, representing Ikenne constituency, as a member of the 10th Assembly. This development followed the annulment of the election of Babajide Owodunni of the People's Democratic Party of the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal sitting in Lagos had last November nullified the election of Owodunni and declared Subokonla, who was also a member of the 9th Legislative, elected. Subokonla took the oath of office and oath of allegiance administered by the Deputy Clerk Fumilayo Adeyemi during a plenary held at the Assembly Complex, Okemosun, Abeokuta. Shortly after his swearing-in, Subokonla promised to always remain a good representative of his constituents. And you're watching the News Express live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja, on Star Time, channel 276. Kindly follow us on all social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG and other handles now showing on your screen. And when News Express returns, Akpabio swears in Lalong as senator. The news continues shortly with details of this and more after this break. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Global News Express on Global Television, bringing you live broadcasts of our news. Thank you for staying with us. The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has administered the oath of office on immediate past Minister of Labor and Employment, Simon Bako Lalong, for Plateau State. Lalong of the All Progressive Congress, APC, who took the oath of office on Wednesday at about 11:56 a.m., is replacing Senator Napoleon Binkep Bali of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, who was sacked by the appeal court. The immediate past Minister of Labor and Employment, before the swearing-in on Wednesday, was at the National Assembly on Tuesday to submit a certificate of return and relevant documents to the Clerk of the Senate. Speaking with journalists after the oath of office, the new senator, who assured his people that he would not disappoint them, as he had never done, even as member Plateau State House of Assembly and later Speaker of the House of Assembly, said that he decided to resign his appointment and come to the Senate as his first choice. Over now to our foreign desk, the Democratic Republic of Congo has declined authorizing satellite equipment for European Union election observers over fears it will use to manipulate the presidential poll later this month. In a surprise decision on November 29, the EU cancelled its electoral mission to the Central African nation, citing technical issues. DRC is due to hold presidential and parliamentary elections on December 20th. President Felix Tshisekedi, 60, is running for re-election. The government said last week it regretted the move to cancel the observation mission. At least 10 people were killed in floods after intense rainfall in southern India, local media reported Wednesday, weeks after the cyclone triggered intense flooding in the same area. Hundreds are stranded in the state of Tamil Nadu as water submerged roads, with the Air Force dropping 10 tons of emergency supplies to those stranded. Tamil Nadu's Chief Secretary Shivdas Meena said at least 10 people had died and 12,600 people were forced to flee to safer areas. The heavy rains came just 2 weeks after at least 8 people were killed by Cyclone Misheng, which hit Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh states on December 6. While rains are expected in southern India in December, scientists have warned that storms are becoming more powerful as the world gets warmer with climate change. Hospital doctors in England began their longest strike action yet on Wednesday, in a move that health bosses fear would pile pressure on service at the busiest time of year. Junior doctors, those below consultant level, joined picket lines with 0700 GMT to the same time as Saturday in a major escalation of their long-running pay dispute. 6 more days of industrial action are planned from January 3rd. The strike came at one of the busiest time of the year for the state-funded National Health Service, as it faces increased pressure from seasonal respiratory illnesses. The strike has drawn criticism from UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and hospital leaders who have described the lengthy workout as their worst fears realized. The British Medical Association announced a strike earlier this month after a breakdown in talks with the government. Survivors of China's deadliest earthquake in the years huddled in makeshift aid tents dispute despite freezing temperatures on Wednesday, too scared to return to their homes, made dangerous by the disaster. State broadcaster CCTV said at least 131 people were killed in northwestern Gansu province and neighboring Qinghai after a shallow tremor of Monday night damaged thousands of buildings. Almost 1,000 were injured across the 2 provinces, with 16 missing in Qinghai. The quake was China's deadliest since 2014. When more than 600 people were killed in southwestern Yunnan province, families sheltering in makeshift tents built from wooden poles and outside the Majik mosques near the epicenter in Guangxi's country, which outdoor stoves and blankets salvaged from homes, their only source of warmth. EU member states and the EU Parliament have agreed to significantly stricter asylum procedures in major reform of the European asylum system. The painstaking negotiated compromise announced on Wednesday provides for numerous additions and tightening of the existing rules of reduced irregular migration to the European Union. Describing the deal as a breakthrough, European Commission Vice President Margrethe Vestager said on its X handle that it's been a long road to get there, but we made it. Europe is finally delivering on migration, while the European People's Party, which includes the consecutive political groups in the European Parliament, hailed the agreement as a historic deal. Left-leaning EU lawmakers were quick to criticize it. Under the new system, the distribution of people seeking protection among the bloc's 27 member states is recognized under a new set of rules, dubbed a solidarity mechanism. Over now to our business desk, the total domestic debt stock may have risen by 133.95% to 51.96 trillion naira at the end of 2023. This is based on new revelations by the Director General of the Debt Management Office, Patient Oniha, while speaking to CNBC. Africa on the sidelines of the discussions for the establishment of the African Debt Managers Initiative Network, spearheaded by the African Development Institute of the African Development Bank in Abuja. She disclosed that the federal government has raised 0.04 trillion naira as total new domestic borrowing in 2023. The Debt Management Office has said Nigeria's total public debt increased to 89.71 trillion naira at the end of the third quarter of 2023. The figure represents a marginal increase of 0.61% compared to 87.38 trillion recorded at the end of June 2023. The DMO, in a statement posted at its official X handle on Thursday, said domestic debt increased by 1.8 trillion naira, while external debt reduced from $43.60 billion as of June 30, 2023 to $41.59 billion at the end of the third quarter. The statement read, the total public debt as at September 30, 2023 was the amount represents the domestic and internal debt of the federal government of Nigeria. The 36 states of government and the Federal Capital Territory, 87.91 trillion naira, or United States dollars, $114.35 billion at 87.91 trillion naira. The total public debt stock represents a marginal increase of 0.61% when compared to June 30, 2023 figure of 87.38 trillion. This trend is explained by the decrease in external debt from United States dollars 43.60 billion as of June 30, 2023 to 41.59 United States billion dollars as of September 30, 2023, and a relatively moderate increase of 1.80 trillion naira in the domestic debt. Delta State Government, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and UTM Offshore Limited has signed a shareholders agreement for the development of the first floating liquefied natural gas in Nigeria. This was contained in a statement issued by Delta State Ministry of Information. According to the statement, the Secretary to the State Government, Kingsley Imu, and Solidarity General and Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Justice, Omamuzo Erebe, signed for the Delta State Government, while the Group Chief Executive Officer, Melekere, and Group Managing Director, Julius Rohn, signed for NNPCL and UTM Offshore, respectively. With the agreement, Delta State Government is to own an 8% share of the project, NNPC Limited 20%, and UTM Offshore 72%. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says only appropriate pricing for gas in Nigeria will create the required market for the commodity in the country. NNPCL's Group Chief Executive Melekere disclosed this at an event in Abuja, where the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority issued a domestic gas aggregation license to the Gas Aggregation Company of Nigeria. Kyari stated that they would deliver gas into the domestic market so that they can create that spark that our country needs to bring the revolution that everybody's waiting for, due to the recognition of the fact that with associated oil and that have done very little about the gas. And on sports, Nuno Espirito Santos have been appointed as the new manager of Nottingham Forest. The Premier League club announced Wednesday the 49-year-old Portuguese coach has signed a 2.5-year contract with the Midlands club after Forest sacked Steve Cooper on Tuesday. Nuno returns to English football, showing a 2-year absence since his departure from Tottenham, with his first match in the change of Forest this Saturday's game against Bournemouth. Nuno replaced Cooper, who was sacked after a dismissal run of 1 win in 13 Premier League games, left Forest just 1 place above the relegation zone. Chelsea came back from the brink to reach the League Cup semi-finals with a dramatic penalty shootout victory against Newcastle after Miyako last Gap's equalizer on Tuesday. Mourinho's side were joined in the semi-finals by Fulham, who beat Everton on penalties, and second-tier Middlesbrough 3-0 winners against Port Vale. Beaten 3 times in their previous 5 games, a wretched run that started with their 4-0 loss at Newcastle, Chelsea showed some much-needed fight spirit to win the quarter-final 4-2 on penalties after a 1-1 draw at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea came back from the break to reach the League Cup semi-finals with a dramatic penalty shootout victory against Newcastle after Milano last Gap's equalizer on Tuesday. As we end the Global TV News Express, here's a recap of some of our top stories again. President Tinubu juggles agencies, moves Naseni, NIMSI, others to SGF office. Vice President Shatima Yemi Isan tax youths with nation building. NLC warned federal government of mass protests again. Banks cut withdrawals. Doctors in England begin fresh strike over pay. And we also told you Rivers lawmakers withdrew impeachment notice against Fubara. That's it on News Express, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja, on Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all our social media platforms using @Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. See you again.